Hey everyone, how's it going? Five Finger Shuffle back here with another video. And this morning, what I want to do is I want to go over the patch notes because it has a lot of details about the new Hall of Trials. So we're going to go over that today. The rest of the update we won't really talk about too much because we already kind of know what it is. We know there's two new heroes. We know there's Vivian, the Nat 5. She's an Earth Mage. And then there is a new connection hero. He's a Water Ranger. You can pick him up as well. I know if you want to take a look at those, you can. They will be in the game though within a few hours, so you can always check them in game in a little bit. Vivian does offer immunity. The connection guy doesn't look too good, but of course it depends on his damage. If he does crazy damage, then of course he'll be better. But otherwise he looks kind of boring. But Vivian does look really good. She has 3-turn immunity, which especially with now C. Armin kind of falling by the wayside, it'll be nice to have a 3-turn immunity to help counter Dizzy. So yeah, other than that, this is, and there's a Vivian side story as well, with the new map as well, which we already knew, of course, but just in case you forgot. So, Hall of Trials, how do you get into it? Here is where the challenges used to be. So all you gotta do is come in here, and easy enough. You'll get these. You get 3 of these Book of Retribution, and you get them every week. And one entry each. And if you want to enter up to 5 more times, you can. But it's gonna cost you 120 Sky Stones for every entry. Your free entries will reset every Monday, so kind of the same as like a labyrinth sort of thing, where you get a certain amount of entries, and if you want more, you can buy them. So that's a thing. I don't know if I would bother buying them unless you're in a real hurry to get the stats on one of these units. Maybe not this rotation, but maybe next rotation it's got a hero that you really want that extra boost on. And that's kind of what we're going to go over today, is the new skills and whether or not you're going to want to use that skill over another skill or vice versa. So basically, this stuff we already knew. It's got advantages and disadvantages, and you get a chance to practice and bring in the team that's going to give you the most damage, sort of like a world boss type thing. So you can practice it out before you bring your actual team in. You can see up here in the top right hand corner, it's just counting damage. So it says here, Hall of Trials consists of 3 battle phases and 2 weakened phases. And you can obtain additional points when you defeat the boss. So if you've ever played Summoner's War, you've done something almost exactly like this before. Basically, it's just do as much damage as fast as you can. During the battle phase, once you kill him the first time, he basically gets stunned, and then you can do increased damage to him during that stun phase. Then once his attack bar fills, he gets unstunned, and you have to do it all over again. You do that 3 times. If you kill him, then you're good. Obviously, the weakened phase when he's stunned won't happen after the 3rd kill. He'll just die. That's why it says 2 weakened phases. It does look like you can debuff him at all times, which is nice. There is also, if it takes too long to kill him, he will go into Berserk mode, which is kind of the same as in Hell Raid, where there is a Berserk mode. So you want to kill him as fast as possible to try and avoid that. This is about the weaken. Basically, when the boss's health reaches 0, they'll become paralyzed. We already talked about that. And then when he's done being paralyzed, his health is restored to 100%. And then you get your result based on how much damage you did, and based on that, it will give you a certain amount of, what were those called? I forget already. Book of Retribution. No, that's not right. I don't remember what those are called, but you're going to get a bunch of them anyway. So here you go. If you get a D rank, you get 16 of, Wisdom's Gaze, that's what they're called. So you get 16 Wisdom Gaze, and if you get a triple S, you get 25. So you're going to get somewhere between 16 and 25, depending on how well you do. they don't show you the shop, so we don't know how much these things are going to cost. But that will be kind of what it comes down to, as to how many runs you're going to have to do to buy each one. Also, keep in mind, when you buy these, the stat you get is fixed, but the number of the stat is varied. We'll go over that in a minute. So you might buy one and may not get a good roll on it. So you're probably going to have to buy multiple to get the best possible result for what you're looking for. So here's a written version of the recap. 16 to 25 wisdom's gauge, depending on how much damage you do. And you're guaranteed to get at least 16. So even if you do 1 damage, like you hit the boss one time with a 1-star monster, or I guess 2-star monster, and your champion dies, you're under 300,000, so you get 16 automatically. So not that huge of a difference between Triple S and D, but of course you want to be able to get the highest rank possible just to be more efficient. Alright, so it says you can exchange it. Alright, so coming into the units, I'm going to do this a little bit differently. We are going to read through it, but I want to switch back and forth between this screen and the actual unit screen. So I'm going to bring up the actual attacks, and I'll read them off one by one. So we're starting with Chloe. While I find her, you can see the main stat of this piece of gear is going to be 7 to 14% attack. So you're going to get automatically a 7 to 14% attack increase just by equipping this. Now when you buy it, it will have somewhere between 7 and 14%. You got to hope for a good roll on that, of course. I would assume you'll probably get somewhere in the middle. Obviously, if you're unlucky, you'll get 7. If you're very lucky, you'll get 14. And you can go from there. Now, what it sounds like also, the other RNG part of this is you'll only get one of these 3 skills added to your unit. So 2 of this on Chloe, 2 of them on Magic Bolt, and 1 is on Hyper Strike. So let me jump over to my baby account. Here's Chloe. So the first one, Magic Bolt, is her second skill. So currently her second skill inflicts magic nails for 3 turns, and this effect cannot be resisted. The problem with this skill is that it can't be resisted, but if you miss, she still doesn't inflict magic nail, and if there's immunity, she doesn't inflict magic nail, because it's not considered a resist. So the first option of this new piece of gear is on this skill, it will also grant a 50% chance for the caster to get an extra turn when using this skill. So every time she uses the skill, automatically 50% chance to get an extra turn. So that's option number 1 that you could get with this skill. Option number 2 dispels all debuffs from the enemy when using Magic Bolt, and this effect is applied before inflicting a magic nail. So if you're using her in, for example, PvP, say Guild War, and the problem is you're bringing her in, but the unit has immunity, so you can't put this up, you could equip the version that has the strip, and she could just come in and use this skill, strip, apply magic nail, and you're good to go. Obviously, you can't apply 2, so you couldn't get both the dispel and the extra turn, but you would have to pick one if you happen to have multiple of this this piece of equipment. And then finally, the third option is for Hyper Strike, the third skill. Currently, soars in the air and attacks the enemy, stunning for 1 turn. Damage dealt is increased when the enemy is inflicted with Magic Nail. That's normal. But this now will also have it decreases the enemy's defense for 2 turns when using Hyper Strike. So on top of this skill, it will also add a defense break. Now personally, I would kind of rather the defense break be on Magic Bolt, but adding a defense break to her kit is amazing. So if you're running her in Wyvern, that extra defense break would be really nice. That's a 2-turn defense break on a 4-turn cooldown. 4-turn cooldown isn't great, but still, you're adding a 2-turn defense break, which means that she's basically got her defense break as often as like somebody like Luna, who everybody uses there already. So the third one, fantastic for Wyvern. The other two look like it'd be better for PvP, and you're getting increased attack buff, which is fantastic and is going to be good everywhere. So that could definitely make Chloe a very viable unit moving forward. So let's switch back, and we're going to switch over to Rose. So here's Rose. This is regular Rose, of course. The big thing that jumps out is that they gave her an extra 5 to 10 speed. Imagine, so I don't really care about it as much on Rose, but imagine if that 5 to 10 speed was on like an Oxlots or something crazy like that, how valuable that could be. If they decide to do something like that to one of those first turn units, oh my god, this could be crazy. Even still, it could be crazy. So let's come over and take a look at Rose. So she has one potential effect for each skill. Before we do that though, let's look at her base speed, because I don't remember what her base speed is. So her base speed is really bad, right? 97 base speed. All of a sudden she could, if you get a good roll, she could get 107 base speed. Does that make her more viable? We're going to have to find out. So skill 1, Sequential Cutter. Currently, this attacks with a sword with a 50% chance to provoke for 1 turn when the caster's health is more than 50%, or increase defense for 1 turn if the caster's health is less than 50%. Now, if you use this this version of this piece of equipment, it's going to do both those things every turn. So it doesn't matter what the health is, it's going to provoke and defense buff. Whether you're above 50%, below 50%, doesn't matter. You're going to get both effects at the same time, no matter of health. So, I mean, where are you going to use that? Maybe if you're using her, I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, the defense break is really nice if you're using her, or defense buff, sorry, is really nice if you're using her as a tank in somewhere like Wyvern. I don't know a lot of people that are using her heavily in PvP, but maybe the other skills will be a little bit different. So Shield of Light, the second one. Cover an ally with Shield of Light, dispelling 2 debuffs and granting barrier before increasing combat readiness by 10%. Barrier strength proportional to caster's defense. Now, this will do the exact same thing, but it's also going to apply it to the caster. So she's also going to get the cleanse, and she's going to get the barrier, which is really nice. I don't know, like that doesn't really affect Wyvern if you're using her there, but again, if you're using her in PvP, then she's got a self cleanse if she needs it. So say you're bringing her in, you got her sped by a dizzy or something, she could self cleanse and shield herself. Just makes that skill a little bit stronger. Nothing too crazy though. Let's see what the third one is. So the third one I think is going to be where a lot of people would use this if they are using Rose. Decreases the skill cooldown of this skill by one turn. So currently it's 5 turn cooldown. If you skill it up, it goes 4 turn cooldown. If you now use the extra this new piece of gear, you can get this down to a 3 turn cooldown. So you have an increased attack for 2 turns and combat readiness by 15%. Again, if you're already upgrading it, I mean, you can get up to 25%, and you can get that on a 3 turn cooldown. So I think that's the most exciting one, is the third one for her. Getting that decreased cooldown, I think, would be the most important in terms of Wyvern for sure. So that's pretty much it for Rose. But increased speed and decreased cooldown, keep in mind, like, the increased speed is almost the same as decreasing cooldown because you already get to use the skill more often. So now, maybe instead of a 4-turn cooldown, you could call this like a 2.9 turn cooldown or something like that. That's actually a huge effect when you add the increased speed in there as well. So let's move on to the third one now. Third one is Destina. So this one we saw in the release yesterday, where they talked about the different skills. So this was kind of like their demo to show us what we're getting ourselves into here. So let's jump over to Destina. We already know what hers is, but at least we can kind of see it side by side with what her skills currently are. I've actually been using Destina a lot in Arena, so I'm actually looking forward to this one. This probably will be the first one I buy. So the first thing is her resistance. A lot of people that have been using her have said that they prefer to use Monty or they prefer to use Kitty Clarissa for cleanse because they have a lot easier way to get their resistance really, really high. With Monty, she has it built into her specialty change, and with Kitty Clarissa, you can put the Strat Gauntlet artifact on her. And poor Destina starts with 0% resistance, so all the resistance on her is just from your gear, which makes it a little bit harder to get her to be a great cleanser, because she could potentially get debuffed before you get there, and then you're screwed. Or especially if you're facing like an ML ball, he comes along and sleeps her. I know I've had that problem a lot. With someone like Dizzy, I just have immunity, so it doesn't matter. But even though I have like 150 resistance on her, she still inevitably gets slept. So going over 200 is really nice, and hopefully this is going to help that. So basically the main stat of this gives her an extra 8 to 16% resistance. 16% resistance could be the difference between landing and not landing a debuff on you that changes the course of the match. So I really like that. It seems like something small, but resistance is big in this game. So let's start with skill 1 now. Key to an Oath attacks the enemy with a staff and heals the ally with the lowest health. Healing increases proportional to target's max health. So of course, same thing. But this now will also dispel 1 debuff from the ally with the lowest health when using this skill. So basically, when she'll attack somebody as she normally does. The heal would normally go on the ally with the lowest health, but it will also now cleanse. So if they have a heal block, that would be really nice, because it will cleanse the heal block first and then heal. Or if they're stunned, it would wake them up and it would heal at the same time. So that could be really helpful. Of course, that is only 1 debuff, so it's going to be random. It's kind of like Potion Vial, except you know what target it's going to go on every single time. So really nice option there, if you happen to get that one. The second one is blesses an ally, recovering their health and increasing CR by 30%. Healing increases proportional to max HP. This one's actually kind of interesting. So this one is going to add an extra 20% CR boost. So this is going to jump from 30% to 50%. One of the main things I use Destina for is I'm running her, Oxlots, Sid, and Lilibet in a team together. And I'm constantly using Oxlots to give Sid more and more and more turns, right? Sid has a defense break. He's got huge damage. He's got his own speed buff. So he's already taking a ton of turns. Then he's got Oxlots boosting him whenever he needs it. And now I could also run and use Destina like that, which I am using already to manipulate it a little bit. But going from a 30% boost to a 50% boost, again, that's almost double, right? So that could be huge in terms of changing the course of the fight. I would definitely consider using that one on offense. On defense, maybe not, just because you don't know who it's going to boost and when. It's not as reliable, I guess, but on offense, that's fantastic if you want to try and abuse that. Could also be in PvE for like Abyss or for raid or anything like that. It would be really nice. And the third one, the main thing that people complain about with Destina is her long cooldown. This is a fantastic skill. Grants all allies the blessing of Spirit Lord, dispelling all debuffs and recovering health. When an ally is debuffed, the CR will also be increased by 15% per each debuff. So what I've been doing is I've been letting Dizzy attack into the rest of my team, and then Destina heals, and because they all have 3 debuffs, the entire team gets full healed, and they get an extra 45% CR, which is incredible. I love using her against Dizzy. She's been a blast. But now, this starts at a 6-turn cooldown. If you skill it up, it goes to 5-turn cooldown. But people still complain about it because somebody like Dizzy is going to get her skill up before Destina gets her skill up, and she just can't cleanse fast enough. She falls behind if Dizzy gets to do her skill 3 more than one time. There's no way Destina can keep up. Now, this is going to be a 4-turn cooldown, which makes her much more viable against heroes like Dizzy. I really like that. And depending on where I was using it, I would definitely consider that, because that is a huge heal as well. It's basically a full heal, plus attack bar boost, plus cleanse. It's a crazy skill already. So decreasing the cooldown on that, definitely worth it. I think this makes Destina, if she wasn't already, definitely puts her as one of the top healers in the game, especially in terms of PvP. So I like all of those, to be honest with you. I would prefer either the number 2 or number 3, but any of them are going to be good. And finally, we have Wanderer Silk, the most random of the units that that are getting this change. So again, same thing as with the Rose. We're getting an extra 5 to 10 speed. So let's go take a look at Wanderer Silk. 5 to 10 speed added on Wanderer Silk. Is that going to be enough? Let's jump down here. I know a lot of people have her now too, because the refund that we just got, she was the hero in the Mystics. So everybody has a Wanderer Silk now. First thing first, let's do the same thing we did with Rose and check her base stats. So she already has 112 base speed. If you get a 10 roll on this and it jumps her to 124 base speed, that makes her comparable to Litica, because she's essentially a slower Litica as it is. A slower Litica that what was I going to say? That's element neutral. So very interesting. Let's take a look at her skills and see what they did to her, because that could make her even better than Litica, depending on what they buffed. So the first one is automatic fire. So here's your first option. Fires a volley of arrows at the enemy, decreasing combat readiness by 10%. This is single target. Has a 50% chance of granting an extra attack of the same kind, increasing by an additional 50% when the target is debuffed. Damage proportional to caster's speed, and she can burn into an extra turn. Alright, so now, instead of having the condition, so instead of the enemy needing to be debuffed in order to get another turn, she's automatically going to get another turn. Sorry, extra attack, not extra turn. So she will do the that auto attack automatically with this skill if you have this piece of equipment equipped, which is really nice. I mean, that's only going to come into play like half the time now, because, well, yeah, because you already had a 50% chance one way or another, and it could have been a 100% chance. Now it's always 100%. So you're only gaining half the time, and even then you're only gaining when there's not a debuff, because if there is a debuff, you already had a 100% chance. So it's really only going to come into play about 25% of the time. I don't really like that first one. I mean, the extra attack is nice, but that's really not why you're using her. So let's take a look at the second one. So both of the next two are on Shock Arrow. So let's see what it does currently. Shoots an arrow infused with the power of lightning, inflicting silence and making them unhealable for 2 turns, and decreasing their CR to 0%, aka the Litica comparison. Damage dealt increases proportional to caster's speed. So CR to 0 plus heal block plus silence. And those are both for 2 turns. So the first option on this says dispels 1 buff from the enemy when using Shock Arrow. Okay, so that's kind of huge. I know it doesn't seem like much. And it says this effect is applied before inflicting silence, of course. I don't know why it just says inflicting silence, but I assume that means before all. Since it's at the same time. Shoots an arrow infused with the power of lightning, inflicting silence and making them unhealable for 2 turns, and decreasing CR to 0. Yeah. So, here's the thing. Let's jump out of here for a second, because I've been complaining about Litica a little bit. I loved Litica when she first came out, because she has crazy high base speed. Look at that, 124 base speed. What a coincidence, right? So she got 124 base speed, and this skill here decreases combat readiness by 100%, decreases speed for 2 turns, and grants the caster skill nullifier. I love this skill. It's so good. It's especially good in PvE. It was amazing in PvP at the time because she could outspeed Ruzids, who was like... Ruzid and Judith were the 2 units most widely used at that time. As the fastest unit, and nobody had immunity. Unfortunately, this collab came out, and Dizzy came with it, and people started running Dizzy as their fastest unit, and a lot of times that Dizzy had immunity. So all of a sudden, one, she had immunity, so you couldn't do it anyway, because now we had A11 that we could farm, and immunity was a lot easier to get, and a lot more people had it now than they did when Litica first came out. And now, with it being Dizzy, a water unit, she just misses way too often. So even if she doesn't have immunity, she was using this skill and it was missing. And it's like, well, so she's now essentially useless in PvP. So I stopped using her. She still has gear. I've stripped some of it, but I keep thinking I'm going to use her because of how good she is, but really the only place I'm using her right now is Hell Raid. And it's really unfortunate, because her kit's really good. I love that skill, but not being able to land it on someone like Dizzy kind of takes away from her. So why am I saying all this when we're talking about Silk? Is because this is essentially the same thing. She got that 112 base speed, plus 10 is going to make her only 2 speed less than Litica, which means she's going to go first, assuming good gear. And then, oops. So you don't get the slow, but you do get silence, and you get heal block, and you get the CR to 0. And you can get a strip before it. So if there happens to be immunity on the unit you're trying to strip, she can strip it first and then bring their CR to 0, and she's element neutral. So you don't have to worry about her missing on other units. This is really, really strong. I love this. I'm probably going to build a Wanderer Silk now. I'm excited about that. All right. And the final one, so same skill, Shock Arrow. This will do the same thing, except now it will also increase speed of all allies for 2 turns. So there aren't a lot of speed buffs out there anymore. Ruzid has a speed buff, but this is really good too. I like this. Oh man. either one of those options is crazy good. So say you're attacking, I don't know, like a Dizzy in Arena or in Guild War. Reduce the Dizzy to 0, silence her, so even when she does eventually get a turn, she's got 2 turns silence, so she can't use her skill 3 for 2 turns. And not only is she at 0, but your whole team is probably starting around 80%-ish of when Silk went. So they're 80%, Dizzy's at 0, and your 80% has a speed buff. That's, I don't know, man. That's really strong. I think Wander Silk is the winner of this for sure. I think she gets the with the base speed and those 2 crazy shock arrow improvements. I think she's the winner. If you're gonna build her, you're gonna be really happy. Destina also, both of those are really, really, really strong. Actually, all 3 of those are really good for her, depending on how you want to use her. Rose also quite nice. If you're using Rose in Wyvern, you might want to use this decreased cooldown. I think that would be a good one. Plus the base speed is really nice. And don't forget Chloe. We did her first, but that increased attack plus the strip on Magic Bolt or the defense break on Hyper Strike. A lot of really good options, guys. So I hope you guys are excited for this patch. I know I am. This is one of the coolest things I think that they've ever implemented in the game. I'm really excited about this. I'm kind of hoping that it doesn't take too long to get them, because I don't want to ruin the, everybody's so excited for it, right? I don't want to be like, oh, now you have to wait a month to get one. So hopefully it's relatively quick and we can start using them right away, because I'm really happy about it. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope this helped you out. Hope it helps you understand what's coming today. Don't forget to hit the like button and comment down below. And if you're not already subscribed, say you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can get all the latest content. And we will be, as soon as the patch goes live, we will be streaming today. So feel free to jump onto Twitch and come follow us at twitch.tv/5fingershuffle. Hopefully we see you there. If not, I guess either way. Whether you're there or not, have a great day, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.